Stop recording button. Double tap to activate.
Hello, my yarn lovers, my crafty and creative people. Excuse me. I have allergies. I'm really congested right now. Anyways, we're gonna do a little throwback Thursday. We are gonna jump in the time machine and go back and visit some of my early projects when I first moved into this house. Yeah, we are. So come on in, get your beverage, get your coffee, get your tea, your sparkling water, your martinis, whatever it is. Get your project if you knit or crochet or you sew, or maybe you're folding laundry, maybe you're working. I don't know. I know some people can actually listen to podcasts and things on the job. So, who knows? But whatever it is, please say hello in the comment section. Let me know where you're watching from, what you're doing, what we do when we hang out together. Say, hey, I'm from Alaska and I'm knitting some socks. I've been to Alaska, just saying. Been to Anchorage. I love it. I'd love to go back. So, anyways, if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for choosing to come back and hang out with me and spend a little bit of your day with me. And thank you for your patience while I briefly introduce myself to anybody who might be new. Hi! My name's May. I love yarn, I love knitting and crochet. Those are my hobbies. And yes, I am visually impaired. Yes, I was born that way. Yes, I am colorblind. Have been my whole life. So, anyways, what happened this week? Why are we visiting vintage whips? Now, they're not really vintage, I don't want to say, because I know some people call their old projects vintage. And I don't want to get too confused with the vintage patterns, right? Because when you knit and crochet, there are vintage patterns from the 1940s and the 1950s. And even knitting's been around for thousands of years, I think. Maybe 1,000 years. I think knitting's been around for a long time. I shouldn't say thousands, but 1,000 years or something. Knitting's been around for a long, maybe not quite that long, maybe 100, 900, something like that. There's, sort of unknown. Some people say it goes all the way back to 900. Yeah, I don't know, but crochet, not as old, but still, you can find crochet patterns from 1920, 100 years ago. So I don't necessarily want to say vintage projects because they're not vintage per se, vintage patterns, but these are definitely, some pretty old whips. They are, I wouldn't just call them sleeping whips, right? I mean, if you don't know yet, a whip is a W-I-P. It is a work in progress. What is your work in progress? So I moved into this house on January 1st, 2016. So we're looking at 9 years and 5 months. And these were some of my very early knitting. Excuse me. Sorry. These are some of my very early knitting projects, and I don't quite know why I finished them. It's possible that I didn't finish them. It's possible my skills just weren't quite there. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. My first 4 years or so here, I didn't do nearly as much stitching as I do now, right? I just did stitch every day in May, encouraged and challenged you to do something every day in May, form a new habit, better a skill, whatever. If you did it and you completed it, congratulations, by the way. Let me know what it was. It doesn't have to be stitching. It could be all kinds of things, from exercise to working out to, choosing, cooking more of your own food, anything like that. So if you did every day in May, let me know. But I was not stitching every day in 2016 and in 2017. Sometimes I'd stitch and then I just put it aside. I wasn't able to really do it for a while. And that's, a whole nother story that I'm not going to get into right now. But let's just say I didn't do a lot of knitting. My first 4 years here, I did some, I'd do a scarf, or a pair of socks. I do a couple of things a year, a dishcloth, did my first shawl, that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, now these are not all of my unfinished objects. These are I wouldn't just call them sleeping whips, though. I would probably call these like full on hibernating whips, right? Like when you sleep, you go to bed at night. For me these days, I get up in like 4 hours. Unfortunately, wish I was getting up in 8 or 9 hours, but it is what it is. So, but I would definitely not just say that these are sleeping whips. I would probably like hibernating whips, right? Like bears, they go and hibernate for like 4 months or something. That's more of what the time frame we're looking at. These might even be like comatose whips, right? Like they've been just, you know, shoved away in a back room for years. So these are not all of them. You probably heard on my channel. Some of mine were in my basement, got moved out to storage. That project is still a whip. So, but these were a couple that I had that I dug out. If you don't know, I just did like an hour-long video almost on a summer yarn party at Paradise Fibers, my favorite local yarn store. Yes, they are having another sale. Yes, they are. 10% off site-wide through June 8, 2025, plus 15% off of the Jody Long and the Juniper Moon. Did you watch that video? It's totally okay if you didn't, because it is pretty long, but I did show my latest Malabrigo, my latest purchase, and because I didn't want to just keep showing the same Paradise Fibers yarns over and over, I really did some serious excavating in Yarn Mountain. And if you are new, that is what I refer to my yarn stash as. Yarn Mountain. It's well beyond a stash. It truly is a mountain of yarn. So, I was digging in there looking for some different yarns, and I did find some that had never made an appearance on the channel before. But I also found these two projects, and this is one of my very first projects when I moved in here. It is like it's out of the Cascade Fixation, right? That's why I dug it out. I wanted to show some different colors of the Cascade Fixation that you can buy at Paradise Fibers for 10% off right now. And this is a tank top that I started. It's almost finished, I think. It's got like these two little straps, and then they're supposed to cross in the back. I believe the color's called fuchsia. I think. I'm not 100% positive. The whole colorblind thing, and the fact that I did make this like 9 years ago or something. So obviously, if you can see, it's got like some little tank top straps. They cross on the back. It's got some buttons. And then I have yet to finish clipping my tails, weaving in my ends. But as I was going through the bag, right, trying to figure out what in the heck is this thing even, I found some elastic. So there is elastic in the bag. We got that going on. So I am trying to sort of figure that out, right? Like what was I supposed to be even doing with the elastic? I'm looking at it, it's feeling like probably, I would say 3/4 inch elastic, right? You often know, if you watch my channel, I often use 1 inch elastic on my waistbands. This doesn't quite feel as thick, but it doesn't feel as thin as a 1/2 inch. So I'm guessing this is some 3/4 inch elastic. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly I was supposed to be doing with this. It almost looks like on the very bottom, on the hem, like I maybe did a casing to put elastic in there, but honestly, it doesn't look big enough for the 3/4 inch elastic. I do have some 1/2 inch elastic somewhere, so I don't even know. Should I sew the elastic in? Should I not? I did actually put a turning row in there to sew elastic on the bottom. What do you think? Like, those of you who can see, how would it look if I didn't sew the elastic in there? Would it look weird with the turning row in there if I didn't sew elastic in there? And then I did the same thing on the top. I put a turning round, like I was going to sew some elastic into the top to make it nice and tight and fitted. So I believe the turning row is there. Like, I can feel it. It's tactile, right? That's why I do that. I put that in there. So, but again, it really isn't, I didn't make it wide enough for the elastic that I purchased. The 3/4 would be definitely too big. So I think my 1/2 inch elastic would fit in there. But again, how obvious would that be if I didn't sew the elastic in there? Do you think it'd look weird if I just left it like without elastic, even though the turning row's in there? I don't know. I'm kind of debating. I'm just rediscovering this project. I just dug it out the other day and I'm like, huh, what was I doing with that? What was the plan? Why didn't I finish it? I think I had discovered that the elastic that I purchased wasn't big enough for the project. And at the time, I don't think I could get my hands on the half-inch elastic. I probably couldn't afford it, honestly. I'd probably bought the buttons and the yarn and the elastic, and then I was like, whew, that's the wrong elastic. And I probably could not afford the half-inch elastic at that time. Financially, I just didn't have the resources to even do something like that. So, yeah. I'm not totally sure, though, why this project got, beyond the elastic situation, I'm not totally sure why this project got set aside for a while. Don't actually know. Do I think it'll fit? I think it will fit, right? My weight kind of goes up and down, it fluctuates, but I think it probably will, even if it's something that I started 9 years ago. So there is that. Would love to hear the opinions of those who can see in terms of the elastic. Yes on the elastic, no on the elastic. Or I could just sew up those bands, right? Because I did put the turning row in there and not even bother with the elastic. Is it necessary? Is it not? I don't know. So we got that. That's one project. That is one hibernating, almost comatose whip that we've dug out to maybe be revived. Okay, and then we got this other one that I thought I would share with you and discuss. This is definitely, should we frog it or finish it project. I'm really, really on the fence about this one, right? That's what we're going to play tonight. Frog it or finish it. Yeah. So again, I was looking for more of my old Cascade yarns to show for the Paradise Fibers video, because you know I love to buy my Cascade yarns from Paradise Fibers, and I knew that I'd purchased a lot more colors and yarns. So this is the Cascade 220 Superwash. I want to say this is the color Raspberry, I'm pretty sure. And these, I probably started these in 2017, 2018, something like that. I don't know for sure. But these could just be fingerless mitts, right? I've got 2 done. They got some seed stitch on the cuff. They got like some little eyelets going around the waist, or the wristband. And then on one of them, I actually made them into flip tops. Like, what do you guys think about flip top mitts? Yes or no? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is probably the very first pair of flip top mitts I ever made. Didn't really know what I was doing. I do think they're kind of cool. I like fingerless mitts in general, right? In today's era, like cell phones and everything, it's nice to be able to go out for a walk, or go to the store or whatever in the fall and the winter, and keep your wrists and your hands and your fingers pretty much covered, and then just keep just the fingertips out, right? So you can use your cell phone, or you can get your keys out, or you can do whatever, and the majority of your hand is warm. And as you know, I do live on a rural property out here. Sometimes I do walk around. I do have a wood stove. I do go out and get firewood in the winter, that kind of a thing. So it's definitely nice to have this little extra, layer on. So in some ways, the flip tops are really nice, because you can keep like your fingers and everything warm. And then if you just need your fingers out, you can just get your fingers out. Or if you just need your thumb out, you don't get your thumb out, and you can still keep everything else nice and warm. Or of course you can take them off. I don't know though. These aren't the best looking. I can tell you that right now. My seams aren't great at the top, right? I can totally feel that they're not very even. I'm not very good at seaming things. We've talked about that before on here. So it's something that I try to avoid. So they're not real pretty seams, and I don't even know, like, there is a pattern in here, but if you're on my channel very much, I don't really follow patterns. They're sort of like suggestions to me, right? Patterns are like, suggestions, and then I kind of just do my own thing. I mean, I do consult patterns sometimes to get an idea of, like, okay, worsted weight yarn, how many stitches should we cast on for fingerless gloves or socks or whatever, right? Fingering weight socks. I might cast on 64 stitches for a sock for me, that kind of a thing. So I'm pretty sure that's mostly what the pattern was about. Was like, hey, how many stitches, do we cast on here? And I probably did use the pattern for the seed stitch and the eyelets, but I don't know that I followed their pattern for the flip tops. And so I don't even know if I can recreate the little flip tops. What do you think? Flip top mitts? Yes or no? Or we could just cut them off, right? I mean, we could just take some scissors and we could snip, snip, snip at the yarn in there, right? We could just cut that out and pretend like the flip tops never happened. What flip top mitts? Yeah, who tried to make flip top mitts? Anyway, this is, I think, my first attempt. I don't think I've ever made them since then. I do think they'd be cool to make if I can ever figure it out. But if I cut off the flip tops, then all I would have to do would be to weave in my tails, and I would have a lovely set of raspberry fingerless gloves in the Cascade 220 Superwash. So, I mean, I could be really close to having these done, or I could, I don't know how long it's going to take me to figure out, right, like how to do, how many stitches I even did to make the second one match. I just don't have the ability to really feel and count every single row. So I don't know how many rows I did. I don't know how I did my decreases. I'm looking at the seed stitch on there. I'm thinking, like, did I do 4 rounds of seed stitch? I don't know. What do you think? Do you see 4 rounds of seed stitch at the cuff? And then, did I do my shaping? I did some decreases. I did some shaping. I don't even know how many, if I did that like every other round or what. I don't know if I could figure that out by feel or not. I don't know if I could figure out the shaping and the decreases on the thumb or not. And like I said, I do not seam well, so you can tell my seams at the top are pretty sloppy. The good news for me is that I did leave a needle in here, a circular needle. I probably, it was one of my old bamboo ones. Probably been looking for this circular needle for years. Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't think it'd be a good idea for me to take it out of here until I finish the project, right? Because if I do, then I would absolutely have no clue what needle to use on this. So I think this feels like probably a 7, maybe an 8, somewhere in there, probably that 6, 7, 8 range. And that's probably what I would use for a worsted weight for the Cascade 220, would be anywhere between a 6 and an 8. So that's probably what that is. But it's been MIA for years, but I probably will go ahead and tuck that back in the bag and still, sit on this project a little bit longer and try to decide, can I reconstruct the flip top to make it match or not? Or do we just snippity snip snip and be like, what? May never made flip top mitts. No, she never tried. I mean, we could do that. We could totally do that. So anyways, those were just 2 of the little gems I found in there. There are more whips that were in the basement. And these whips that I have up here are whips that I started after I moved here in 2016. Now I was living in an apartment downtown. I was working at the university, and then I wasn't anymore. And so this house, a friend built this house for me to live in. So I moved out of the apartment, and I had a bunch of whips there too. Yeah, I did. I had a skirt that I think I just needed to sew buttons on. I had like another skirt. I had a market bag. I think I even have some completed really cool leg warmers and stuff. I don't even know why I would have left those with whips. I don't know sometimes why I did that. But anyways, I do have a bunch of whips that were in a box, that were in the basement, that who knows when they are definitely MIA, right? They got moved to storage, and who knows if or when they will ever make an appearance in my life again. I don't know. I'm not in charge of the basement. I'm not in charge of the construction. That is not my circus. Not my monkeys. Nope. So I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know if or when I'll ever be able to share with you those whips. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of excited about getting to see the yarn that was down there one day. I think one day I'll get to have that yarn again. And that will be cool, because I know it'll almost be like shopping again and getting like a huge yarn haul or something, because I know that there were boxes and boxes of yarn down there, and there was some really cool yarns, and there's definitely some vintage yarns. There's some discontinued yarns down there. So I will probably, if or when I ever see those boxes again, I'll probably bring them in here and share them all with you, because it'll be like Christmas, right? There'll be some cool stuff to look at that has been probably, some of it was probably stuff that I moved into the basement and then, brought upstairs, looked through, put it back down there. So some of that stuff is like 10, 12, 15 years old. So who knows what kind of gems we got down there. Alrighty, well, I think that is it for our little Throwback Thursday, our little edition of Frog It or Finish It. I would love to hear from you. Do you go digging through your old projects every now and then, find some gems from like 8, 9 years ago? I do watch Another Yarn with Shannon on the YouTube, and she definitely has some old projects. And so it really helps me, right? Because every now and then I'm like, oh my goodness, I got so much stuff started here. Right, I get like start-itis. I'm like, ooh, I want to start that. I want to start that. And there's all kinds of things that I want to make. And so, I'll start a bunch of stuff. And I got all kinds of plans for this channel. Like, I do some yarn reviews on this channel, and I love doing that. But, that means usually crocheting something up. I've knit with a lot of yarn, but I have not crocheted with a lot of yarn, because I'm new to crochet. I've been crocheting less than a year, and so that means before I want to review a yarn, I need to at least try and crochet with it. So I've got lots of plans. So I've got a ton of stuff started here. Got start-itis. I don't, when stuff gets finished, I don't know.
Stop recording button. Double tap to activate.
Okay, well, we're going to do something fun with this video tonight. If you don't know yet, I do use a screen reader. It announces information, reads stuff out loud to me. And I was just in the middle of that video and it announced something pretty personal that I don't necessarily want on that YouTube. So I did put the first half. I am terrible at editing. Like, I cannot edit frame by frame. But I was almost done with the video. So I put it in the editing app, and then I just chop the end off. That's all I can do, is find the point right before it said something out loud, and then I just hit delete, and it just chops off the end of the video. That's all I can do for editing. So I guess, you know what? I wish that I could edit frame by frame. I wish I could just cut that segment out or mute that little announcement, but I can't do that. I don't have the tech skills. I don't have the ability to use those features to see well enough to do that. So anyways, I will go ahead and put the second half of this into the app. We'll put the two pieces together, so if it looks a little jumpy like we're splicing frames together, we are. So anyways, because I am going to use the app tonight, I do want to let people who are blind or visually impaired know I am going to go ahead and put my opening and my closing screens in there. The opening says, welcome to my channel, and the closing screen says, thank you for watching. And those words are spelled out in blue and red yarn. All right. I don't always put them in because I forget to say that, and I don't always like to use the app to edit. So anyways, you know what I always like to end with? Creativity is for everybody, whether you see or you see like me, which is not so much and not in color and not in the daytime, or you don't see at all. Creativity is for you. And whether it's knitting or crocheting or sewing or quilting or beading or sculpting or painting or whatever it is that you do, today is a great day to craft and create. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, happy stitching. Bye-bye for now.